Florida State suffers another key injury during spring practice.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Well, the Noles, unfortunately, they have had yet another injury to a key player. They've had injuries at receiver. They've had injuries at especially safety. It's just one of those deals where sometimes you're a little bit snake bitten, and Florida State is definitely snake bitten. From what the report is, it wasn't even during a play, but I'm not even going to try to find out the actual information, but I read that on 24/7 Noles and I just stopped. I'm like, I'm not going to make any phone calls. I'm not going to ask anybody. It is what it is. But the player is Hykeem Williams, the wide receiver, the junior from down at Stranahan High School in Fort Lauderdale. He has a hand injury. I don't know if it's broke, sprained, ligament. I don't know the details, but he's going to be out for a little while. Obviously, that means he's going to miss the rest of spring practice. There's only a few left, but that's still reps that Hykeem Williams does not receive, and it's still reps that he does not get with Thomas Castellanos or anybody else on the spring roster. With that being stated, this is part of college football. I saw somebody post on one of the message boards that I was reading, like, why is this happening to us? Look, I just want to cut to this real quick in general. There isn't a team in the country that doesn't go through this. There isn't. There's another program. I'm not going to get into specifics, but they just lost a player that is a starting tackle, possibly. Those really hurt, losing offensive linemen. It happens to every program. There are guys that are going to get out of the lineup for different things. Now, of course, when you have an assimilation to the program and things are going well with the new offense and all that, you hate to see it. And Hykeem is a guy that's expected to start. But what are you going to do? Florida State has to move on until he gets back, and he should be back before, barring something totally unforeseen, before the Alabama game and probably for fall camp. But again, reps, lifting weights, assimilating to the offense, all those things by actually practicing, they matter. It is what it is. So now I just want to bring up a couple of points here about how he can, at least for now, speaking about Hykeem Williams, he can do the best that he can. And this is related to what Norvell discussed at his press conference about practice at Tuesday. And by the way, it was not good news about what Mike said. And I give him all the credit in the world. Just a little bit of a heads up for what's ahead in the show. He was not very happy about Tuesday's practice, but here's a way that you can change things. Hykeem has still got to go over his playbook. He's still got to work on film. He's still got to work with Thomas and the other quarterbacks and the other receivers on how to beat different coverages and all those things that are off the field. There is a way to get better. For Florida State football to get back, Hykeem included, they've got to have guys want to come in and grind even when they're not able to go out on the field. Support your teammates, lift what you can. It's an upper body injury, so he can still do leg work, and he can certainly do film and discuss different things with the receivers and the quarterbacks on how to get better. It's all mental reps, if nothing else, and it's still important. That kind of leadership carries over to the practice field, and what I'm going to talk about with Norvell here in about 10 minutes will not be as prevalent. But, again, that's just part of it. So I have a couple of questions beyond Hykeem Williams being injured. Number one, Norvell has discussed ad nauseum that they've got a lot of good young receivers. But as I've said a billion times, college coaches are the most stubborn people on earth. They want it to look a certain way every single time. They are notorious for not putting a kid on the field consistently until they know the whole gamut of for the receiver in particular, their version of the route tree at Florida State, their version of how you run the dig route, their version of how you block on the screen. Do it their way. He talked a little bit about a couple of different guys over the course of spring ball. Lawayne McCoy just is one example. I've seen Lawayne play several times. He's got incredible hands. He can catch the ball 40 yards down the field with one hand. I've watched him do it right in front of me. But that doesn't mean he knows the playbook. That doesn't mean he knows how to block. It doesn't mean he knows all those things to their level. I have no idea what he's doing because they've shut the media out for the most part. But we haven't heard quite as much about the young guys as I thought we would. Maybe that's by design, and Norvell is keeping that under lid because they don't want anybody trying to steal their players out of the portal. I doubt that's going to help much, but whatever. Then you got guys like Elijah Moore. He's talked about Moore even today. One of these guys is going to have to step up in case, for whatever reason, you have Hykeem Williams go down more because of that hand injury and it lingers, or somebody else gets hurt, God forbid, Deuce or Landon or anybody else. These young guys have got to step up. They've got a talented group of sophomore receivers. Really talented. BJ Gibson, maybe he comes out there and balls out this summer, and that starts working itself into an opportunity to him for play even more. I don't know which guys it will be. Jaylen Brown, redshirt sophomore. That's another kid. He can fly. You must find somebody to help take these reps. You have to look at like, this is my chance. Hykeem was probably going to be a starter. Go take his job, or at least make him compete and come off the field more, and then make it to the point where the coaches have to use you and move you around. Sure, you want your teammate and your brother to get healthy. I'm not stating anything other than that. But if you're going to raise yourself up as a football program, you have to compete. So I'm hoping the leadership is all around and everybody's supporting each other, because, like, again, Norvell is not very happy right now about practice, and that's part of it. But they have a chance also to get better in general, because there's so many talented players that we haven't seen a lot, haven't seen the videos and all that. We're not getting as much access by design from Florida State, and I get it. But we need to see some of that and hear about more of that between now and the end of June. Like, those workouts get going. They won't be quite done in June, but by then we'll pretty much know. Is Florida State turning the corner as a program? And let's just get down to the nitty-gritty. Is wide receiver taking a big step up? Because there's more talent at Florida State at receiver than what we saw last year. And this year's group is more talented than last year's. There ain't no doubt about it. Because you got Squirrel White, who's coming back from injury. He's just getting started. That's the good news. You lose one, you gain one. Squirrel had a PCL injury. He's just starting to get back into the flavor of things, but he's going to be, in my opinion, your leading receiver this year in terms of total receptions. You got BJ Gibson, Lawayne McCoy, Elijah Moore, all these different guys. Don't forget about Landon Thomas at tight end. All these guys need to get their reps, and it needs to improve. I want to hear more stuff between now and the middle of summer before we even get to the end. And, oh, this is what happened. I want to know before. Because right now I've got Florida State at 7-5, and all these injuries suck. I get it. But there's enough talent that somebody has to step up, because this is exactly what happened at Florida State in the 80s and 90s when I first started watching Florida State. Somebody get hurt, they'd had a freshman or sophomore come in. They wouldn't miss a beat. The competition was unbelievable. I need to hear and see more of that. We're going to hear about it right now, but come that Alabama game, I expect, I don't know which one it's going to be. Maybe it's Jordan Scott, the junior college kid. He's got a big body, 6'6", 6'7". Somebody needs to step up. It's just, it's too downtrodden for me to believe that one or two of these guys aren't going to be playmakers. There's too much size and speed at Florida State. So off my high horse with that. When we come back, we are going to talk about some of Norvell's comments and why I think that it's happening. I think there's a combination of events, but one I'm a little bit concerned about. That is next here on Locked on Seminoles. There's nothing like the energy of a live game, whether it's catching up on a last-minute baseball game showdown or soaking in the excitement of an NBA matchup. Finding great seats at a great price, though, that used to be a challenge until I found GameTime. GameTime makes scoring last-minute tickets easier than ever. Prices actually drop as the event gets closer, and with all their great pricing, you'll see a total cost up front, so you got no prices that are going to surprise you at the checkout. Last-minute ticket deals, this is the best part. You can save up to 60% off when you check out the last-minute tickets. for all kinds of sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever kind of event you want to go to. And again, my favorite part, you can see your seat right there from your phone with the seat view feature. Just click on the seat you're interested in. It'll show you the baseball mound, the basketball court, the theater stage, whatever it is you're trying to figure out, you'll know where your seat is. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Florida State has a dilemma that most teams go through, even teams like Ohio State that just won the national title, or Texas that's possibly preseason number one. You're going to have practices that are down. The energy wasn't there, the coach will say, or you'll get at least hints, or you'll hear something about it through the grapevine. This has been going on for decades. This is nothing new. It's called human beings being human. But when Norvell took to the microphone today, he's a guy that's fidgety anyway, but like he was ready to jump out of his skin. He was trying to be nice, but he was direct and honest about this, which, by the way, shout out to Mike Norvell, because most coaches would hide this 100 out of 100. I did not expect it from him, to be honest. But he gets credit when it's due. He said practice, the energy, etc. It wasn't there today. We got to get better as a team. We got to get better as coaches. It's like he threw everybody into the mix and turned on the blender. He wasn't happy. There were some spots. He said they had some explosive plays and all that, but the energy wasn't there. Like, he kind of hinted at physicality, this, that, and the other. And he goes, I get it. We got a lot of guys out for whatever reason, but it's got to be better. So just to get that out there from the jump, Mike Norvell's post-practice press conference was not what you're looking for if you're a Florida State fan. Give all Mike the credit. Give Mike all the accolades for doing that, because, again, most coaches would just lie. That's a pet peeve I have about coaches. I gain a lot of respect for Mike today for that. But here's my thought, just from covering football and talking to coaches all the time about this. Guys get tired of hitting the same guys in spring ball. Same thing happens in fall camp. That's part of it. And it's also difficult when the guys around you are banged up. So the injuries have an impact on your performance. Now, some guys are like, hey, at least I get my shot. That guy's going to play hard. But when you're in the secondary, for instance, and you've got multiple guys that are out of the rotation, that makes guys a little nervous about when do you rotate? How do you switch from one player to the other if you're in match or if you're in cover three or whatever you're in? You have to be comfortable with the guys around you. It's just part of it. So I'm probably not as worried about it as much as Mike, but again, I wasn't there. And I'm just curious if I'm right about this, because this happens across the country, no matter the program. And obviously, Florida State's coming off a absolutely horrible season, but I'm not as worried about it as some other people. It's okay that it happens once. Now, if it happens again, like Mike talks about it again, before the end of spring, if they have another one of these kind of practices, that's different. You get one. One. He's going to have to put out some leadership calls, make a few comments to some of the players. And again, I just used the receiver, as we talked about earlier in the podcast. Lawayne McCoy and some of these guys, they're second-year players now. They've got to be held accountable. Squirrel White, even though he's a kid that came into the program as a transfer, he's a veteran. Deuce, really talented player, great kid, big guy. Deuce Robinson needs to help become a leader, not only for himself and some of the guys around, but the team, not just the receivers, tight ends, but like the team. Hey, we got to do better here, guys. Obviously, today's practice wasn't good. Norvell was just out in front of the media, and it's blasted everywhere. This Brian Smith guy on Locked On Seminoles even talking about it. Like, you need to have that as well. So, again, one practice, I'm not overwhelmed by it. If it happens again, and if we get reports about it that it was, especially during the last practice or the last scrimmage, whatever day that is, if that's porous, then I become much more concerned. Because, again, just about every team in college football has a practice. It's like, that wasn't what we wanted to see. The energy wasn't there. There are a lot of reasons for it. But, again, I think the injuries have a lot to do with it. Guys not as sure about the person next to him on the offensive line or the secondary or whatever it is. It's harder. We'll see. But the other thing that I want to hear at the end of this spring is Mike talk about we have more continuity, and there's been reports of that. Of course, you pick an outlet for Florida State. I don't care if it's War Chant, Tallahassee Democrat. You can find something that leads you to that point, and that's the other reason I'm not as concerned. Nobody's perfect, even as a team, but you also know that you've got more leadership, more guys hanging out together, more guys that want to be around each other based on everything that I've heard about this team, which leads to a better and more stable college football program long term. I don't care what position it is. Football is a team sport. The guys have to at least hang out to a certain degree. Not everybody has to like everybody. It's not realistic. But you also need guys on the team that are willing to stick up for each other and try to work things out if there's something wrong on the field or off the field for that reason too. It's going to make it work a lot better. Does Florida State have that? I have no idea. We're going to find out, especially at the spots that got injuries, safety, receiver, stuff like that. Like Squirrel comes back, you lose Hykeem. It's not ideal. I get it. But at the same time, does Florida State just give up all of a sudden? No. You have to kind of grind through. So with that, I'm not as concerned about it as some other people. They do need to get a little more luck with the injuries. It's been weird, man. Like, I think it's 3 safeties that got hurt like within a week and a half. Like, it's ridiculous. But last year, the O-line was that way, and the year before, the O-line was that way. So you have to find a way to overcome. And if you can't, you're not going to raise your expectations. And like right now, again, I've got Florida State at 7-5. That's my projection for 2025. I'm pretty steadfast with that. But we'll see if it changes based on the information we get between now and the middle of summer. When we come back, I want to finish up with a little recruiting news here on Locked On Seminoles. Florida State had multiple players on campus the last few days. They've done a great job, quite frankly, with getting top-notch players. Demarius Yates, we talked about him, among others. Deuce Gerald's, he's a kid that's been back 2 times in a couple of weeks. Just reading that on 24/7 Noles, like putting the dates together. I'm like, okay, that's a good sign. I just talked to Demarius Yates a few weeks ago at Under Armour. He's a kid that I knew was going to visit Florida State. He said they'd been after him, but I didn't know when he was going to visit. Getting him on campus, that was officially something that happened. He'd announced it on X, but seeing him make it to campus is different. It's a long way from Kemper County High School to Tallahassee. Now that he's made it, this is a national recruit. Like, he was elite at Under Armour New Orleans, big-time player. I expect Florida State to be in the mix with Alabama. I think it'll be one of those two in the end. If it's not Ole Miss, they're kind of the wild card. But Demarius Yates is shot out of a cannon, has great hands, and he's one of those guys that one-on-one nobody wants to tackle. Him getting back to campus and saying he's going to take an OB to Florida State, that's really good news. 24/7 Noles was talking about that, and there's other reports too. But this is the kind of player that Bobby Bowden loved, the slightly undersized running back. He'll grow into it. He'll be about 200, 205 pounds, I think, when he's finally done. But he's not the biggest guy in the world. I'd say he's 185 pounds, maybe 190. But, man, can he move. And he just has great hands. He could probably play slot receiver. I love those kind of players. And, you know, players like Carter was one of the first players that people knew about at Florida State because he was an electric running back that catch the ball. Heck, the Niners drafted him in 1990, I believe it was. Those kinds of players are what Florida State football should be about moving forward too, because there's so many readily available in their natural recruiting territory. So I'm curious if Florida State can get him back on campus and lock him up, because he's another guy that's shot out of a cannon. He's just a blast to watch. Deuce Gerald's coming back 2 times is a huge deal. He's a 5-star on Rivals. He's a natural defensive tackle. He's a guy that is a natural pass rusher. He has over 50 offers. Him coming twice is huge. And then finally, this is something that I thought was a good sign. Asher Giotto is a kid that's only going to be, I believe, a sophomore this next year. He's an elite recruit already. He plays in Jacksonville. And he was talking about the energy level at Florida State in general in terms of just how hard they play for the time that he was there. Now, I wasn't there, but that was a good sign. And he was talking about that. But more importantly, he said the coaches did not care who it was. I love this. If you're good, you're going to play, talking about the freshmen. He liked how he saw the freshmen in the lineup in general getting a chance to play. I assume he's talking about the Desir twins, And some of the other guys that come in, I mean, their D-line class is nasty. Florida State's D-line class should be playing. So we'll see how that goes. But I was glad to hear that, because it's one thing to give kids lip service in recruiting. It's quite another to actually do it, and then recruits see it when they visit for the next class or the class after that or whatever it may be. Great sign for Florida State, because they need guys, quite honestly, that are able to come in and play right away anyhow, because they need to build that depth and get back to where they should be to be Florida State of old. But you still got to trust in the guys. I'm glad that Coach White and his staff, and I'm guessing the offensive side of the ball too, based on like all these young guys like Elijah Moore, Lawayne McCoy, etc. There's plenty. Landon Thomas. Florida State is playing the young guys, and that's going to help their recruitment overall a lot, because other players are going to see that. Other recruits are going to talk about it. It's going to make the rounds. That will certainly help Florida State football. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles with me. Please hit that like button, that notification bell, and subscribe to this podcast. We will see you again tomorrow.